Hello and welcome to another video. So today I'll be taking you through an aspect of the Christmas Instagram filter I built. So I'll just play this and so you can see it now. So I've got a Christmas hat, got it off Sketchfab. I'll put the link in the description below. Some antlers as well, along with the nose, and then we've got an odd little snowman head with some funny graphics for the eyes, and then a carrot for the nose, and then the mouth only activates on the voice of the video being recorded, so it has some audio input. So it's an audio analyzer. You can see from the video playing right now, you can see that there is the mouth moving, or the elements of the mouth moving because of the voice. So what I'm going to do is take you through how to build that part. So we're going to focus purely on the snowman, blinking of the eyes, the audio analyzer, and I'll quickly show you around the snow because that's really cool as well. But first, some housekeeping. Thank you very much to all of you. I've hit 100 subscribers, and I believe at the recording of this video I've hit 111 subscribers, so that's absolutely amazing. At the beginning of this, when I started sort of properly doing these videos back in June, I always wondered if I could get to 100 by the end of the year, and it looks like I've done that. So I just want to say thank you to all of you, and also thanks to all those who have left comments. It's been great chatting with you, and I hope to continue this conversation in 2021. Right, on with the content. So as I say, I'm not going to go through this filter with the 3 in it because there's just so much content there and a lot on the patch editor. So I've made a quick cut down version of the snowman again. So here we go, here's the snowman all over again, and I've put in the patches purely for the snowman. Now again, on screen now you'll see a video of that snowman we've already looked at with yours truly, and you can see that the mouth is moving up and down, up and down. Well, elements of the mouth are moving. So how are they all built? Well, I'll just quickly talk about it and then we'll go ahead and build it. So the way the audio analyzer works is that it's using the mic input. So that's the thing that's always available on the left hand side under scene. So you'd hit scene, right click and hit create patch. So that would be one part. You then have the other part of needing a speaker. So you'd always need a speaker. Again, I would add that from the asset add object section, which we'll go through, but I'm just talking about it now. And then you would create add the audio analyzer, and then you would basically pull from the audio analyzer. You would use a patch to basically pass through new information into a shape. So in this case, my 3D shape here has been set to 0.500, and I'm going to pass into it these two values, which is 3 for the height of the scale of the object, and on the Z or Z, or depending where you're from, 0.1. So that's what I'm doing there. I'm manipulating those 2 points. So that's that. When it comes to the nose, I just applied it to the nose. So again, that's just using the normal face tracker, and then pulling out a nose option, and then I set the piece of coal, because I'm Victorian, because I say coal, and I'm going to add that to the nose tip. And then finally, the eyes opening and closing, I've used the eyelid tracker, and then I've applied a multiplier, transition effect, and then we've got the output here. I seem to have added that in twice. Well, let's just delete one of those. And then I've just applied that to the scale. All right. Now, one thing to note, all of the elements here are using the same dodecahedron. So that's really important when you're doing stuff like this, is to always make sure you're keeping the amount of objects, or the amount of objects you use, to a minimum, and trying to reuse as much as possible to keep that file size down, because that's really important. You want this to be able to be used everywhere. Quick note before we move on is that the audio analyzer isn't available in Facebook. So if you build your filter and deploy it, it will only work inside Instagram. It won't work in Facebook because of the audio analyzer. There should be we might see a message, depending how this goes, we might get a message saying you can't add it, but we'll get to that a bit later. Right, and finally, I'm just going to pull this down and let's zoom in. Yeah, and we're going to press play. So there we are, the snow particles. So the snow particles I took from a tutorial that Facebook made available, and it uses a block setup, so a code block essentially. I tried to do this with just particles on my own, using the normal particle emitter, but what I found was that as I was doing it, there were so many options to change and fiddle with to get the effect that you need, and I was a bit averse to using blocks to begin with, but in the end I can highly recommend using blocks. I'll just quickly show you on the right hand side. I will try and zoom in on this section for you. We've got 4 inputs we can now control. It is an emitter, but we're using a block to basically control that emitter. We've got 4 inputs we can play around with. We've got the flake size, so just increase the size there. You see they get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then we've got the rate that the snowflakes fall, so increase the rate, or in this case the speed that they fall. We've got the squirrel, I'll call it wibbly wobbly, but we've got the squirrel, which I guess is just how much they spin. And then we've got the density, so that's just how thick it is, right? So from a fleeting snow to a flurry, I guess. So anyway, I'm not going to go through how to build it. I will show you the details of that block, but I highly recommend going through the tutorial yourself, because it'd be better for you to take it all in. Also, if I did take you through it, that would be another half-hour video, and you guys don't want to sit here for half an hour. So right, let's get into it quickly. So I'm going to press pause on this one. I'm going to just keep this patch editor around just in case I completely utterly forget how to do half the elements. Right, so I'm going to go File, New. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my 3D objects that I need for my scene. So under Assets, bottom left hand corner, you can either search AR Library or just tap on the Add Assets. And then I'm going to go to Add Primitives. Right, I want a sphere. I'll add a basic primitive. I'm going to add it to my untitled because it currently is untitled. I haven't saved it. And then I'm going to tap back. And I'm going to select a dodecahedron primitive because that will be my lump of coal. Add it to my scene. Okay, so I'm going to close that. I'm going to open up the dodecahedron and select the matte, and I'm going to change it to black because coal is black. Anyway, so first of all, I'm going to now add a face tracker. So if you hit Add Object, left hand side, in the scene section, when you hit Add Object, the first option that does appear within the scene is face tracker. So I'll just add a face tracker, and then that's now added that to the scene. I'm going to open up patch editor, so that's Alt Command P, bring this into the scene, and then I'm going to right click on the face tracker in the scene on the left hand side, and I'm going to create a patch. Now I'm doing that because I'm going to need to access the nose to put the coal on the nose for later on. Okay. Right, so let's add the sphere. So I'm going to hold this, select the sphere in the asset section on the left hand side. I'm going to drag it into the face tracker. There we go. I'm going to increase the size of that, or in this case the scale. So I'm going to make it 6 by 6. And ooh, should we leave it flat? Should we have a flat facing snowman? Yeah, let's have a flat facing snowman. Actually no, we'll give it a little bit of depth, but not a lot. Okay, so there's our flat snowman. Actually no, let's have a little bit more. Right, I'm going to move it back a little bit in the scene. Oh, let's pause Charles, he's just moving too much. Let's lift it up. Okay, right, so now we need to add the nose. So how do I do that? Well, first of all, I'm going to select my dodecahedron and I'm going to drag it into the scene under the face tracker. It's going to add it, there you go. And then I'm going to, on the right hand side, under Actions, top right hand corner, Actions. I don't know if a lot of you use this, but it's totally worth using. Tap that and then use the option Position on Face. And then I'm going to click Nose. Right, so now it's added the dodecahedron to the nose section on Charles. Now obviously I don't need all of these bits. If I hadn't added this earlier, you know, then you could have done it this way, but in this case I now can delete all that. So the dodecahedron has now been added to the tip. Well, let's just zoom in on that so you can see that. So I'll try to zoom onto the patch editor for those who are watching on your mobile. So within the nose option, we've got the bridge, we've got the nostrils left and right, and then we've got the tip. So the dodecahedron at this moment in time is added to the nose tip. I hit play. Obviously it's attached to Charles's nose, so it's where his actual nose is. So if I press pause on that, and I'll just hit left view, hold down command, zoom in. Right, I'm just going to move that nose, move that lump of coal away from Charles's nose. So I'm going to select this, the dodecahedron with inside the group object. I'll just name that to nose actually. And actually I'll also rename the main sphere to head as well, so we can see that. So with the dodecahedron selected, I'm going to pull it away from Charles's face and nose. So if I applied something later on to the nose, where the nose effect moves, then at least then the nose is actually still going to move. So the dodecahedron is still going to move if Charles's nose moves. I'll just lift it up a little bit further as well. Right, so that's the nose. Going to hit save on that, and we'll just add it in to Snowman 2. Okay, so we've got, I'll carry on now. So I just saved it. So I'm now going to add in the eyes. Same principle. I'm going to use the same dodecahedron. I'm not going to reuse any other elements. I'm just going to drag another one into my scene. Alright, I'm going to call this IL, so I left. Right, and what I'm going to do again, I'm now going to use, I believe, I'm going to see if I can do actions and see if we can position it. So yeah, I can position it to left eyeball. So that's now been positioned to Charles's left eyeball. Let's see if that works for us. Okay, so it's a bit close to his face. I don't necessarily want it that close. Now let's zoom out on this stupendous chunk of code. Now you can see here it's using this, it's done all the stuff for us again, but I don't want it to be, I don't know, it's going to be difficult to work out. Let's take off those patch elements. Sorry, I'm just getting a little bit confused myself. So I've got the 3D position of my eye, and I'm going to set it. Actually, do you know what? We're not going to do this. We're not going to actually set it to Charles's eyes. What we're going to do is we're just going to put it wherever we want it to be. So I'm going to take off that patch. I'm going to keep it selected. I'm just going to move it into the scene, and I'm going to adjust its size because lumps of coal all aren't the same, are they? So we'll make it. No, it's a bit short. All right, we'll do that. And let's just rotate it so it's a bit out. There we go. Right. I'm now going to add in another dodecahedron onto the scene, into the face tracker. I'm going to name this IR, so it'll be the right one. I'm going to change its position. Okay, let's just zoom a little bit here. And let's bring it, let's make it a bit bigger, and I'm just going to rotate it slightly as well. Right, so we now have left eye, right eye. Now we need to animate them. So how are we going to do that? Well, the way I found the best way of doing it is to use the eyelid control. So let's go down into the patch editor. I'm gonna just zoom in here. So from the face tracker patch, you're going to want to pull from face. And then you want to type in eyelid. So that will bring up the eyelid options available to us. Now, the reason I'm using this is because I want the eye to scale up and down every time the eye is opened and closed. So what we'll do is we'll use eye openness, or in this case eyelid left openness. So left openness is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's about 6 one down, and then the 12th one down is right eye openness. So we're going to pull that out. I'm going to create a multiplier. Doesn't like me being zoomed in so much. And then I'm going to increase it by 1.5. Then I'm going to do a transition. So this is like the animation effect. and I don't want the scale of the X and the Z, or the Z in this case, to change. I want it just to be changed on the Y. I'm going to use a linear curve or an easing effect of linear, but you do have other options. I've just, in the case of linear is all I really need, but you could have bounce, so it bounces open and closed. Now we obviously need to change the asset itself, so we need to change the patch on the scale. So to do that, with the dodecahedron selected from the face tracker on the left hand side, selected, on the right hand side, tap the arrow next to scale. So then what we're going to do is we're going to apply that to the eye. So now let's hit play, and hopefully Charles gives us a little bit of a blink. So he's blinking. Oh, I see what's happened there. Now because I rotated the eye is not in the same position as it was before. So if I just pause that a moment and hit rotation, and I'll rotate it back round, hit play, there we go. So now we've got a blinking eye. So now we just need to do it for the right eye. So with the right eye selected on the left hand side, and then in the properties on the right hand side under scale, tap scale, put that over there. And then all I'm going to do now is to speed up the process. I'm just going to copy, I'm going to select both the multiplier and the transition. I'm just going to copy them and I'm going to paste them back in. So that speeds up dragging it. And then on the eyelid patch for right openness, which is right at the bottom, I'm going to pull it into the first value of the second multiplier. That'll pass through, and then, yeah, and then I'm going to drag it onto the eye. Now I think you can see what's happened here is that there's now an extra asset on the scene. Now that's happened because I did a copy and paste, which is really frustrating, so I'm just going to delete that. There we go. So now it should work. There we go. So now the eyes are opening and closing. Perfect. So what next? Let's get into doing the mouth. That's the next one, right? That's the beast. So let's sort that out. So again, I'm just going to grab my dodecahedron and I'm going to drag it into the scene, and we'll call it stone. We'll just call it stone. Okay, and we're going to change the scale of it because I don't think lumps of coal are that big. Well, for the mouthpiece we don't want them to be that big. Just pause, Charles. Let's move it down. Pull it forward. There we go. All right, and now I'm going to duplicate that stone. Duplicate it 5 times. Okay. So we now have 5 pieces of coal, starting at 0. So it's actually 6 pieces of coal. So I'm going to delete the 0 because I don't need it. Right, so starting with number 1, number 2, I'm going to move that across. Number 3, I'm going to move it to the left. Number 4, I'm going to move it to the right. And number 5, I'm going to move to the left. And then with number 5 still selected, I'm going to lift it up slightly. And number 4 selected, I'm going to lift it up slightly. And then number 1, I'm going to move it down slightly. So there we go, we've got a little smile on our snowman now. Just going to hit save on that. Right, so what do we need to do next? Well, now we need to manipulate those elements so that when you record, the scale of those elements sort of increase. Yeah. So the way to do that is, first of all, let's get the elements we're going to need to do that. So one of the elements we're going to need is the microphone, really important. So right click and create patch. So that does that. Then also under add object, add a speaker, right, because we need that. And then with the speaker selected, right hand side, tap the arrow next to audio. So we now have our microphone and our speaker. Now these, you need the microphone to obviously to activate the audio analyzer, and then you need the speaker for the sound to come out. Now you can have, if you do lots of sound things, you do need multiple speakers. So for this effect, you need to have a speaker. If you let's say you had music or audio of some other being activated, you would also need another speaker. You can't, what I've seen, unless you know you can do it otherwise, I haven't seen the ability to run multiple sort of audio things into one speaker. You need a speaker every time you need to do this, so you need multiple speakers. Right, thirsty work. Okay, so with the microphone selected, I'm going to drag from it, and I'll type in Audio Analyzer. Now, I can't select Audio Analyzer. Now, the reason for that is because at the moment, the project by default is set up to work for both, or export for both Facebook and Instagram. So you need to switch that off. You need to turn off Facebook because the Audio Analyzer is not supported by Facebook. So to do that, go up to the top and under Project, Edit Properties, and then you get this Properties panel, and then you'll see that Facebook and Instagram are both selected. If you tap Facebook off and then come back and drag from the microphone and type in audio, I can't spell today, audio, and then you can now see that Audio Analyzer is available. So double tap that. Right, I'm now going to select the first option, which is audio, and pull that over to the speaker, so that will give us our output now. So that's that bit done. Next thing, I now need to get my stone pieces into the patch editor. So I'm going to go on the left hand side, I'm going to hold shift, well I'm going to select stone 1, hold shift, and then select stone 5, which will select all of the stones, and then I'm going to tap on the right hand side the arrow next to scale. Right, so that's now added those to the patch editor. Important thing to do is make sure you tap off on the left hand side so these things are still not selected. If you do, you might get multiple things getting generated if you do any copying and pasting. So I'm just going to drag these stone patches out. Right, so we now need to affect how this looks. So important part is I don't want to see it. So before I start speaking, on my demo or my filter, you could see that actually you could see the elements, and I've realized I made a mistake with that. So what I need to do is I need to remove that. So first part is I need to actually get rid of the scale. So I'm going to set that to 0, and I'm going to set the Z to 0, 1. So now that's basically made it vanish. I'm also actually going to take off the X as well and set that to 0. No, actually I'm not going to do that. I've got to keep it at 0.5 because if I don't, it won't work. Sorry, I'm thinking as I go. So what I do then is I pull from band 1, which is the audio, and I'm going to create a pack. So I'm going to drag that into my stone 1. So what I want is the scale to change to 3. Then I want the Z to change to 0.1, and I want the X to change to 0.5, or keep it at 0.5, so that matches. Then, because I need both the Z and the Y to be seen, I'm going to drag band 1 to both the Y and the Z, or the Z. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to repeat all of this for you, but I'll speed it up. Right, so now you can see on the screen that I've now added in a few more packs, and they're now applied to all of the stone elements that make up the smile. Now you obviously can't see the smile. I'll hit play. So what will happen now is I'm now going to run a quick test. I would normally do a live test, however it does tend to slow down the scene. So what I'm going to do is just run a quick video. Right, so you now can see on the scene a quick video running, and you can see now that the stones are moving up and down because someone is speaking. And so that's how you do the audio analyzer. I'd highly recommend having a go at it. It's a lot of fun to do. Obviously keep in mind that it's not supported on Facebook, which is a bit of a shame, but I'm sure that will change in the future. Right, apologies if this sounds slightly different. I created the video but then realised I hadn't actually gone through the block section I talked about the snow. So I'm just going to quickly import that from the previous project I created. So I'm just going to do that now. So I'm just going to import that. Just want to apologise, I knew I'd forget something. So anyway, here we go. So just going to add this to the camera. There we go, and I'll just pull that up into the scene. Right, so there we go. There's the snow happening. I'll quickly show you how the block it works. So how is it sort of put together? So I'm just going to double tap it and open it. Now, make sure we pause that because you don't want to run multiples. Okay, so how does the block work? So the block works using two parts to it. The first part, obviously, is the emitter. So that's attached. And you can see it there. So it's a normal particle emitter. You can see on the right hand side here under properties, you can see it's got all the normal options. It's got the size of it, the birth rate, the spray angle, it's got the speed, the scale, the lifespan, the spin, you've got the shape, the material, all of it is available there. The second part is the material itself. The material is not made of a 3D object, it's just made of a shape that you can create using 3 patches. Basically using an SFD circle, a gradient step, and then a swizzle, and that basically applies to the material here. So that gives it that sort of nice sort of snowflake dotty look. You can just see it there. Let me just slow it down, I think. Let's see, I just increase the size. So you see it's got that sort of blurred edge. So that's basically what this allows you to do. And then regards to how do you create, or how are these inputs created? Well, that's kind of the cool part. So with block root selected on the left hand side, and then on the right hand side block properties, I will try and zoom in on this for you. The way it works is you follow this tutorial from Facebook, and you basically would use inputs and tap on the plus button to add an input, and then you would edit that input. So in the case of this, we created one and we called it flake size, and then I kept the value as number, and then I wanted to have a minimum and maximum, and then I created a slider. And basically you would add more inputs as you go along. So I'll just show you quickly. If I tap this, the block over here is now been updated inside the patch editor. You can just see there. You see I've now added in another block input. So that's how that works. That's how those elements are added to the block. And that's why you can see the inputs to change. And then the inputs are changed by using a range controller and then a multiplier. And then that's applied to a patch from the particles. So for example, this one is coming from scale. So if I open up the emitter again, or select the emitter, and then I open up particles, and under, I think it's, where is it? Oh yeah, sorry, particles, apologies, it's right there in front of me. You can see that the scale is actually one of the patches available. And then you can also see birth rate and speed. So here's the speed, and then the birth rate is down here. And then basically they're just all linking back in to the block itself. So apologies for that, I should have taken you through this part. I did say I was only going to show you it, I'm not going to do the actual tutorial. But as I said, it's totally worth going through and doing it, the block tutorial, because you learn so much. And also, you know, using blocks obviously allows you to create those nice little code blocks that you can reuse and pass around and share. So anyway, totally recommend using it, and apologies for not doing it in that first part of the video. Apologies, I missed that. Anyway, back to the original part of the video. Right, that's it for this year. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciated your time. I've had a lot of fun doing this so far. I look forward to doing more stuff next year. I haven't really worked out which tech I'm really going to experiment with next. Snapchat is definitely on the list. It's a big player. It's definitely the technology I need to be looking at and get more versed with. Also, WebAR is a huge player right now. If you're not into WebAR, I highly recommend taking that on board. I mean, retail is going to be making a big move into that scene. So if you're not interested in it yet, trust me, you will be. It's going to be huge. So yeah, I just again like to say thank you so much. It's been a lot of fun, and I look forward to seeing you guys next year. Take care. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. As we have achieved the 100 subscribers, I thought it'd be nice to make all the filters that I've created this year available on GitHub as a thank you. Happy holiday.